When you get your menu here, what you do is you have your last session. So when you're going over your last session, this is the menu that you initially see when you first wake up in the morning and you turn off your machine. This is the menu you see. So last session, first thing that you see is going to say usage hours. That's just how many hours you used it for that previous night. Next thing down is going to say days, 4 hours plus. Now that applies to people who have initially first gotten their machine and they are under a compliance requirement with their insurance company. So what that means is that they give you 3 months, which is 90 days, to meet the requirement of using the machine at least 21 days within the 30-day time frame. And they give you 3 months to do that. So if you look at the days, 4 hours plus, it'll say 0 of 21. And as you keep going, the minimum is 4 hours of usage per night for a day to count. So once you hit 1 day, it'll say 1 of 21, 2 of 21, and so on until you hit 21 of 21. And then I think when you hit 21 of 21, it'll say, congratulations, you've met compliance. So once we get that, then we go ahead and send that off, and you're in good standing pretty much with the insurance. Next thing down on the bottom there, it'll say AHI. So this is kind of an important number, or is an important number, I should say. AHI stands for apnea-hypopnea index. So what that means is how many times you stop breathing per hour on average. So if you remember when you were in your sleep study, they told you, hey, you stop breathing 22 times an hour, or you had 42 events per hour. So this is that number. So the AHI is an important number to be proactive with your sleep. And kind of just take a look at that every once in a while and just make sure that your machine is doing what it's supposed to be doing and everything's good. So the number that you want to see here is 5.0 or below that. You don't want anything above 5. When you initially start using your machine, if you're above 5 and you're a brand new user, it's going to take a while for you to kind of get used to it. Some people adapt in a day. Other folks, it takes them a month or so or more to get used to using the machine. So we expect that number to be high the first week or so if you're a brand new user. But after a few weeks, on it, if your number is still high and everything's working and you're putting your mask on and there's no big leaks coming out, that's when you need to give us a call and figure out why your machine or why your body isn't responding to the machine the way it should be. And then we can make adjustments going forward. The last option there is your mask fit. If your mask looks good, everything, it'll just say good fit. Right on the bottom there, it says settings. So you're going to go ahead and hit settings. This is where your comfort menu is. This is where you are going to adjust your ramp. You're going to adjust your humidifier. You're going to adjust your tube temperature and your flex. With your ramp, what the ramp is designed for is for you to initially fall asleep. The pressure starts low, and then as you're sleeping, it gradually increases over time. So you can set that anywhere from 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes. If your pressure setting is, let's say, for example, it's at a 12, you can start your pressure at 4. It'll increase to 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. Let's say you pick 30 minutes. Over 30 minutes, it'll get to 12. Once it gets to 12, then it'll stop at 12, and then it'll just continue with that pressure throughout the night while you're sleeping. You don't have to have the ramp on. It's just there as an option for you to go to sleep without having so much pressure on your face. And then by the time you're sleeping, you don't even realize that the machine is doing what it's doing. Next thing down is your humidifier. So it'll say humidity on there. So if you just push on humidity, it's going to bring up a number pad. It's going to say 0 through 5. Zero's off, obviously, or off is off, and then 1 through 5. So 1 is the lowest setting, 5 is the maximum setting. I always recommend personally starting at 1. Unless you're an old user, then you can you already know what kind of what setting works for you. But if you're an initial user, always start at 1, and if you press the 1, it'll just kick you back out to the comfort menu, and it'll now say humidity 1. With the humidity, it's for moisture. So if you feel like you have dry mouth, dry nose, it's just, really dry at night, what you want to do is go into that humidity setting, turn it up to 2, see if that works for you. If you still feel like you're dry, turn it up to 3, and so on until 5. Once you get to 5, just be aware that the higher you go, the more likely you are to burn through water in your water tank, and you might have to refill it through the night at least once. So just be aware of that. But start at 1 and then increase it as you go every day if you feel like you need it. Next thing down there is going to be your heated tubing. If you don't have heated tubing, it'll just say tube, and it'll just tell you which millimeter tube it's set to. And that's important because when you have a tube that's a standard tubing and not a heated tubing like this one, you want to make sure that the diameter of the tube is set correctly on your machine, or else it's going to not be calibrated correctly to push out the pressure that it's supposed to. So just make sure that that's set correctly, whether it's 15, 22, or 12 millimeter tubing. But if you do have heated tubing, it's going to be the same thing as your humidifier. You're going to push on heated tube. It's going to bring it up a number pad. It's going to say off and then 1 through 5. And then what you want to do is set it to whatever setting is comfortable for you. 1 is obviously the lowest one, which I always recommend you doing, and then 5 is the maximum. If you do not like warm air, don't even bother turning it on. Just leave it off, and it'll just operate as a regular standard tubing. So flex. Flex is a confusing one because a lot of people don't understand what it is. So what a flex is a pressure relief for you to not breathe against, so it's not so hard for you to breathe against the mask. So what a flex does is that you have an option. If you push on flex, you have the option of going off 1, 2, or 3. So for example, if you set your machine to your flex to number 2, and your setting is set to number 9, a pressure of 9, what happens is that when you breathe in, when you inhale, it's going to give you a pressure of 9, but when you exhale, it's going to actually drop down 2 pressures and give you a pressure of 7. It's just a pressure relief. Like I said, that's basically what it is. It's something that's used for you to not have so much resistance when you're exhaling out against the mask. It's supposed to make it easier for you to breathe. Some people like it, and other folks don't notice it when it's on. So it's kind of up to you and how you feel about it. And those settings are there for you to set for comfort. Those are 100% up to you. However you want to set those is how you want to set them. Some people do use the water. Some folks don't. The water is optional. You don't have to use water in these machines if you don't want to. So don't feel like you need to use the water. I always recommend starting off with no water the first night, and then if you feel like you need it, then go ahead and start adding water the second night or so, because you might not even like the water in there, and having a maintenance set and stuff like that. Because if you do use the water, the maintenance on these machines is a lot more frequent than when you're not using the water. So distilled water only should be in these canisters. You shouldn't use bottled water, any filtered water, anything like that. No faucet water. These are meant just for distilled water only.